she kills her only child. After being married for 2 years without a child, you finally get one. A year after, the child dies due to your carelessness. And you blame yourself. Not only do you blame yourself, you punish everyone around you by pushing them away. You hold on to the memory of your child and try to push away the unimaginable. But that unimaginable is your reality. Join me on this amazing, tear-filled and inspirational journey of self-forgiveness and care. Tola is in the bedroom reading a book to the baby in her belly. Her husband, Fabian, comes in and asks what she's doing. She says research has shown that babies learn through sound and she's helping the child. Her husband says she likes it when she talks about medicine. She starts to mention medical terms and he kisses her. She laughs and mentions urine. He says she has ruined the mood. She suddenly feels her water break. She tells him and he starts to panic. She asks him to calm down. They get back from the hospital with baby Joy. Fabian's mom receives them and is happy about her grandchild. She asks if Tola wants to eat anything, but she says no. Fabian tells his mother he is hungry. She asks him to go and prepare something to eat for himself. She collects the baby from Tola and asks her to stop being so formal with her because she's her mother-in-law. Tola is in the room at night checking her baby fat in the mirror. Her husband walks in, hugs her from behind and calls her sexy. She asks him not to patronize her. He says even if she has just a leg, she will still be sexy to him. She pretends to be angry and he apologizes. She asks that they address the fact that his mother has been so nice since they got back. He says it is because she finally has her miracle grandchild. Tola says she doesn't like the fact that they call Joy that. She says it makes it seem like they were miserable before she came. Fabian tells her that just because one fact is true does not make the other wrong, and two truths can coexist. The baby starts to cry and Fabian goes out to her. Tola looks so lost. A therapist calls her attention and asks her to tell her what really happened. Tell her what exactly led to the incident. It is baby Joy's birthday and they are holding a get-together for her with friends over. Everyone is happy and excited. They have drinks and eat cake. Brian's best friend, Daniel, tells him he likes Ronke, Tola's sister. He tells him that she's out of his league. Ronke tells Tola Brian's friend has been staring at her. Tola tells her sister that she needs to have a family. Ronke says she does not need one. She tells Tola not to disturb her about it anymore and she agrees. Later that night, Fabian is playing with Joy in their room. Tola comes and says it is time for the child to go to sleep in her room. Fabian says no. He says it is her birthday and she wants to play a little bit with her dad. Tola does not agree. She carries the child from her father. The baby starts to cry, but she sings songs to calm her down. The next morning, Fabian is prepared to go to work. Tola and Joy are downstairs. She's trying to feed Joy her food, but she will not answer. Fabian asks her to give Joy her teddy. Tola says she cannot. She tells him his breakfast and lunch are on the table and asks him not to eat outside. She says she wants to discuss something with him when he comes back from work, but he insists on it now. She tells him she needs to go back to work. He says they will talk about it when he gets back. At the office, Dan comes and asks that they go and eat. Fabian answers that his wife already made food for him. He says he doesn't care that he's ordering the food. When the food comes and they are eating, Dan asks after Tola and Fabian's response is not inviting. He asks if they fought again. Fabian says no. He says she asked to go back to work. His friend asks him to let her because women are always right at the end of the day. Fabian comes back from work with a gift for Joy. He tells his wife that he has agreed for her to go back to work. He apologizes for the way he reacted in the morning. She says she understands and is just happy that he's letting her. Fabian is going on a trip and he's reluctant to go. He asks Tola to take a picture of Joy in her uniform and send to him. She sees him off and asks him not to cancel his trip and come back home. At night, Tola goes to check on Joy in her room and sees that she's not sleeping. She wonders why. She also sees that the room's temperature is low, so she increases the AC. She carries Joy and reads her a bedtime story. Tola wakes up in the middle of the night and checks in on Joy again. She sees that she's hot and turns on the AC again. Tola is ready for work. Joy also is in her stroller. Tola gets downstairs and remembers that she forgot her ID upstairs. She gets upstairs, searches everywhere and finally finds it. When she gets downstairs, she does not see Joy on the stroller or anywhere close by. She starts to panic and search everywhere. She checks the kitchen and sees Joy unconscious. She's rushed to the hospital. Fabian's mother comes and asks what happened to her grandchild. The doctor says it was a shock from a live wire. He asks why Tola would have a live wire in the house. The mother-in-law blames Tola. The doctor asks them to come to his office. He says Joy has high blood pressure and this can be caused by exposure to cold. He says he's surprised at that and that the baby has a weak heart. Tola is devastated because she knows it is her fault. Tola waits for Fabian to come. He comes and hugs her, consoling her. They go to see the doctor the next day. They tell him that they are just coming from seeing Joy and she looks alright. The doctor says she is. He says her test and scan results all prove that. They ask when they can take her home and the doctor says they need to observe observe her for a few hours, and after that, they can take her. Fabian and Tola go out. They come back to the hospital and are on their way to Joy's room when the nurse runs to the doctor's office to call him. He runs after the nurse. Tola and Fabian wonder what the problem might be. Tola is back at the therapist's office. The therapist asks how she felt about the whole situation. Tolani says she does not know. She says she cannot put it into words or describe it. The therapist asks that if she could describe it in one word, what will it be? She says failure. The therapist asks why she thinks she's a failure. She says everybody blamed her for what happened. The therapist asks if they said or did anything to make her think that way. She says no. She says they did not need to say it for her to know. Everyone in the living room dressed in black. Baby Joy is dead. Tolani and Fabian cry profusely. Fabian's mom gives Tolani the side eye like she's judging her. Ronke stays with Tolani, consoling her. Tola goes into the room and lets out a great outburst of tears. Ronke walks in and starts to cry too. She asks Tola to get something to eat. Tolani says she's not hungry. She says only the living can eat. She says how can she eat when her daughter is dead? She cries and screams. Ronke cries with her too. She calls herself a useless mother that left her child alone to die. Tolani tells the therapist that she's sure everyone heard her outburst, but they pretended like they did not. They all pretend and act around her like nothing is wrong. The therapist asks what she did in return. She says that she decides to join them in their pretense. She wakes up in the middle of the night and does not see her husband next to her. She goes downstairs and meets him asleep at the dining table. She goes into the kitchen to take water and walks back up. The next morning, she's all dressed up for work. She meets her husband sleeping on the couch in the living room, hugging Joy's teddy. Tola wakes him and says she's going to work. He asks if she's ready for work. She says, as opposed to a man who has not looked at her in months, she leaves. She comes back from work, tired. She sees the teddy and goes to throw it in the waste bin. Fabian comes back and looks for the teddy. He goes to ask Tola, but she says she's not some child to hold on to a teddy bear. She says she did not take it. Fabian goes to the kitchen to get some water and sees the teddy in the waste bin. He picks it up and dusts it. Fabian calls Ronke to the house and tells her what her sister did. She's surprised. Fabian says she's not like that and she's just awfully different. Ronke asks where she is. Fabian says she has gone to work. Ronke asks what work? Because Tolani quit her job a few days ago. Fabian wonders why she's like that. Ronke says it's a way of grieving and they should let her be. The therapist asks Tolani why she lied about her job. Tola says she does not know. She says it is the same reason she threw the teddy away. The therapist tells her she feels Tolani did that because she's losing control of everything and she needs control. She chuckles and asks why the therapist would think she needs control. She tells the therapist that she wants chaos. When Tolani gets back from work, Fabian is at the dining table. He asks Tolani to come and sit. He says they need to talk. He asks how work was and she says it was fine. He places the teddy on the table and she grows defensive. He tells her Ronke told him she quit her job. She gets angry that he will talk to her sister. She says she's not having the conversation with him, stands up and leaves. He follows her behind, saying they will have this conversation. He says he does not see a reason why she would act that way. She says she doesn't want to talk to a man who hasn't even looked at her since the incident. She says she doesn't need him to cuddle her, but at least talk to her. He shouts and asks what kind of a mother she is. Tola asks him to complete the statement. Her fear of him blaming her for what happened has been proven right. Fabian goes to sleep in Joy's room and cries. The next morning, he comes out with his suitcase. Tola is in the living room. He tells her he's going to stay at Dan's place for a while. He hesitates a little, like he has something to say. He says nothing and he leaves. Tola doesn't stop him. When he gets into the car, he cries profusely. Ronke comes to see Tola. She hugs her and she cries. She asks after Fabian. Tola says he's at his friend's house. Ronke asks if she's going to let things get like this. Tola says she does not need any of that. She says she does not need anyone else to blame her for what happened. Ronke says she needs help and admitting that she needs it will help. Tola asks if admitting it will bring her child back. She says Ronke cannot relate to her pain, so she should leave her alone. Ronke says she knows someone who can help. Tolani gets up and leaves. Tolani says she did not consider seeing a therapist. The therapist asks why. She says she's afraid. She says she's afraid of what she might find out about herself. Fabian's mom comes to see him at work. She asks if he's fine and he says yes. She says Dan told her he is not. He tells his mom that he left the house. He says he and Tolani cannot stay in the same house anymore. He says he's tired. His mom tells him this is the time his wife needs him the most and he needs to be there for her. Tolani is in the kitchen trying to slice a tuber of yam and she's frustrated. Fabian's mom comes and asks that she helps her. Tolani shouts that she's fine. She says she can do it herself, then angrily drops the knife. Her mother-in-law hugs her. She says she's fine and goes to the dining room. She asks why the woman is there because she knows she does not like her. She says she's saw the way she was looking at her at the hospital, like she blames her for what happened. The woman says she blames her because how can someone be so careless? She says anyone can make mistakes. She consoles Tolani and says she's not a bad mother just because she looked away for a minute. Fabian is lost in thoughts about his daughter. He thinks about the time he read her a story and was talking about animals. Tolani wakes up from her sleep, a dream, and calls Joy's name. She goes to her room and sees that she's not there. She cries bitterly. Dan comes to see Fabian downstairs and asks why he has not changed his clothes. Fabian tells him that his mother came to see him and she's not happy with how things are between him and Tolani. Dan tells him the same thing. He asks if he has eaten. Fabian stands and says he's going home. He gets to his house and calls for Tolani, but she does not answer. He checks everywhere but does not find her. He checks Joy's room and sees her there. He sits beside her and hugs her. She cries her heart out. They're at the dining table. He gets her coffee and they talk about their child. Tolani says she goes to the third mainland bridge to jump. She says she wants to end it. She says she wants to join her daughter but cannot seem to. She tells Fabian she does not want to do motherhood again and he agrees with her. She says she doesn't want to go through the pain again. The therapist says that is why Tolani is there to see her. Fabian enters and apologizes for just coming in. Tolani is already pregnant. The therapist advises them to be more open with each other about everything. She says they should communicate more so as to not create a void. They have a mini get together with Ronke and Dan. Their relationship is looking great. They go to the hospital together for Tolani's checkup. Pain can sometimes or most times blind us to what is most important in life. We should not let an event knock us to the ground and make us feel miserable, especially ones we cannot control. It is on the Ogunmola Company on YouTube. Please follow, like, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.